Hi, everyone. Investors, customers, and regulators and other partners and stakeholders are watching you. They're watching the way that you're conducting business, and business is changing, if you haven't noticed. Stakeholders today aren't looking for just profit, but they want to make sure more than ever that companies that they work with are delivering on environmental goals. So, greenhouse gas targets, for example, and they're upholding labor and human rights goals and acting ethically, responsibly, and building a responsible supply chain. Hey everyone, my name is Lindsay Hampson. I'm the president of This Rock Inc. We're a sustainability consulting firm. We've helped 54 businesses worldwide figure out sustainability certifications, actions, and reporting. Now, here's the catch. Just because you're making these efforts at your business doesn't mean anyone's going to see them or automatically know that you have them. So, customers, they might ask you for your greenhouse gas emissions and maybe you're not telling them. If you're not tracking your progress and you're just doing a couple of things that are environmentally friendly here or there, and you're not setting clear goals, it's going to be really tough for your large customers or regulators or employees or other stakeholders to know that you're doing this. So it becomes very difficult to demonstrate it if you're not making goals. So this video is about setting ESG or sustainability targets in 2026. Why are ESG targets and sustainability targets important? So let's define what ESG means. Environmental social governance. It's a way to look at a business to see, are they making responsible choices? Are there any risks or opportunities related to the environment at their company? For example, maybe lowering their need for energy. Maybe there's a way to switch out machines so that they use less energy, and then that might cost them less and also have a less of a footprint, scope 2 greenhouse gas footprint, for example. Then we move to the S, social, and that means, is a company thinking about fair wages, good health and safety for their employees, and so on. And the third is governance. Are there policies in place? Are people trained on this stuff? Do you have targets and goals and some kind of way to get there or actions to get there? So targets matter because they're credible. You want to make sure that not only does your company say, we want to be green or we want to be sustainable, but you got to prove it. So go get your baseline data, let's say energy consumption for last year. And then you want to set some targets. You want to say, over the next 5 years, we want to lower it by 10% or 20%, for example. And then showing how to get there is more credible. So we don't want to greenwash and say, yes, we're going to get there and then have no plan to get there. It's also a way to get compliant, to show that you have a target. You could even align your targets or get it approved by SBTI, Science Based Target Initiative. It helps give your large customers who are asking you to be sustainable and to have sustainability certifications confidence. If you have investors, they'll be more confident, and so on. So there's lots of case studies out there that I've seen before, but definitely my clients that I've worked with in the past that have set targets, it's so important for them to explain how they're going to get there. So naturally, over time, a lot of our energy grids, for example, will become hopefully cleaner. And so therefore, the emissions factor applied for scope 2 emissions could naturally decline. Also, going and taking a look at lighting in the warehouse, for example, and switching it to LEDs, or training your staff on reducing energy consumption, switching to energy efficient laptops, making sure that things aren't idling. There's so many ways that we can reduce our impact. And this is why we set a target, because if you don't have a target, then you may just willy-nilly go through life. So get your baseline, set a North Star goal that you feel like is achievable, and then head there. Come up with ways to get there. Engage your employees, your smart managers, your smart people, even your partners to get there. So, why do you need to set these targets? Well, lots of industries are adopting sustainability as sort of a high demand thing. One that I'm thinking about in particular is automotive. There's lots of very large automotive companies that are making sure their tier 1 and tier 2 suppliers have sustainability certifications like EcoVadis, or do CDP, the Carbon Disclosure Project, or have a science-based target, for example. There's other industries too, like tech, like finance, like manufacturing for sure, customer goods for sure, definitely pharmaceuticals. There's so many good examples out there of large industries that are pushing down sustainability requirements onto their suppliers. And that's when your business needs ESG or sustainability targets. One example is Microsoft's carbon negative pledge. Another one, Nestle has carbon negative pledge or a net zero pledge. Unilever has a sustainable sourcing pledge, and Patagonia's social responsibility is really high. So just a couple of examples out there. There's so many more that we could list. If you supply to those companies, even AstraZeneca, then you have to have targets. You got to have a plan, or else they're going to pick a different supplier for next year. ESG targets are becoming table stakes. You just have to have them. People ask us all the time, where do we even come up with a target? And I will always say to them, number one is we need a baseline. We need to figure out what was your consumption last year? And then let's build a plan to get to net zero at some point, or even a reduction of 40% by 2030, for example. I met with a client today who told me that 30% of their initiatives helped optimize and reduce their energy consumption. 40% were purchasing larger equipment changes, and there was a leftover piece. And so that's when they started thinking about buying carbon offsets to help them get to net zero. The answer to who is using ESG targets is a lot of industries around the world. And I'm not just talking about in Europe, I'm 100% talking about here in the US and Canada, across North America. Large companies, doesn't really matter where they're located. If they demand that their suppliers have sustainability targets and certifications, then if you want to be in that industry, you got to do it. So, what are some ESG or sustainability frameworks you're going to want to look at? Well, I mentioned a couple already, but let's talk about one, which is CDP, the Carbon Disclosure Project. This is an annual disclosure that your company would choose to make or has to make. And what it asks is it's focused on carbon. So it wants to know if you're calculating scope 1 emissions, scope 2 emissions, scope 3 emissions if you have it. What actions are you taking? How will you reduce your emissions? Do you have an environmental policy? And so on. CDP is due September for all companies, usually around September 15th or 18th, like right in that zone. There's another one called EcoVadis. This is a third-party rating company. And lots of large companies like General Motors, for example, or AstraZeneca, ask their suppliers to use this tool. So it's sort of like a supplier rating tool across environment, labor and human rights, ethics, and procurement. So basically the themes of sustainability and ESG. There's also other ones out there like SASB, the Sustainable Accounting Standards Boards, like the GRI, the Global Reporting Initiative, CSRD. There's so many out there that are frameworks. Practical steps are number one, get your baseline so you can benchmark against some of your big peers or your big competitors. Identify material issues for you. A company that's a law firm would have different materials, sustainability issues to somebody in automotive. So figure out if it's carbon, if it's labor, if it's ethics, if it's even IT data, or your own suppliers that are the key material issues. And then you can set SMART goals, right? Those are specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time bound. So SMART goals. I love a good spreadsheet. You probably do too. If you're a very large company, you may want to use a tool. But if you're just getting going and just getting your feet wet, starting to set and track your ESG goals can happen in a spreadsheet. How to maximize your success with these approval third parties or these certification companies, or for example, the CDP? Well, number one is be so honest and transparent about those scoring categories. So in EcoVadis, for example, there's environment, labor and human rights, ethics, and sustainable procurement. So really honestly tell them if you have policies out there, do you have baseline data? What measures or actions are you taking for each of them, and how are you reporting on them? So it's definitely important to just be honest. Please never lie. But a piece that I do love to help companies with is if they are doing something, I'm excited to be the translator to tell EcoVadis about it. So maybe they have a big initiative to reduce energy consumption or natural gas. Then that's awesome. I love finding out more about that and then explaining that in a document. Also, it's helpful to tell employees about it or tell your partners about it. But it's always about evidence-backed data. So when we're talking about actions you're taking or even the data you're providing, it's nice to have a file folder somewhere with all those bills from energy for the last year, for example. If somebody ever wants to know how you got a number, you can always point back. Evidence-based data aligned with international standards like ISO 14001, for example, or even the United Nations Global Compact. But one of the things you want to do is showing continuous improvement Not that these are just like one-offs, but that your initiatives in sustainability are real. There's so many really good resources out there for you to just get your feet wet on starting to do ESG tracking and target setting. You can go into the CDP and they'll show you what kind of questions they ask, or EcoVadis. You can look at the questionnaire that's coming out for you, even GRI guidelines. There's lots of starter kits. We have one at this Rock that we look at, which we call the executive reporting sheet. It's data that a company would want to have across those 4 themes that I talked about: environment, labor, ethics, and procurement. If you ever have any questions, you can always reach out. We're happy to talk to you about getting baselines, setting ESG targets into 2026 and beyond. All right, I hope this video was helpful to you. It was all about ESG target setting, and trust me, we know it can be a lot of work, but getting it right the first year is impossible, so just start somewhere. I would say always go and get baseline numbers for environment and labor, for example, and then you can look at how you do against your peers, and then pick some right metrics that you think make sense over time. Pick an appropriate period for target setting. So it could be, we got our energy for 2025. We know it in kilowatt hours. And now by 2028, we want to try to reduce that by 10%. Then come up with actions. Remember, we don't want to be greenwashing. We want to come up with some things that'll help us. Yes, doing this kind of stuff helps get sustainability check marks from your largest customers, but it also will help save you money. If you're reducing your energy consumption, it helps. So what we do at This Rock is help companies from all over the world figure out sustainability at their business. Often it's helping getting certifications or submitting some kind of sustainability questionnaire or getting third-party rated, for example. So if you ever have any questions, you can reach out. Often what we find is companies are doing a couple of things already. We're just helping to tell the story, give some advice, get some baseline numbers, set the targets, and really help them figure out how sustainability can help them going forward, be more competitive out there, differentiate in the market, meet these new large customer demands, and also just do something good. I hope this video was helpful to you. Thank you so much for watching. If you ever have any questions or want to meet for 15 minutes, happy to do so. Again, my name is Lindsay Hampson, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.